catchiness, tunefulness, hookiness. Think about your favorite songs from musical theater. I would bet that part of the reason those songs are indeed your favorite songs is because you fell in love with the catchiness of the hook. It made you want to play it over and over again, or sing along even. And the best of these catchy hooks will stay with you for a long time and become true earworms. Earworms that haunt your dreams and never leave your brain even as you're trying to sleep. But in a good way, you know? But what's the reason that some hooks are super catchy while other hooks don't really quite stick with us? Let's dive into the psychology behind them and find out. Okay, there are a lot of different potential definitions here when it comes to a hook when we're talking about that catchy bit of a song. The psychologist Dr. Byron defines a hook as a musical moment or musical phrase that stands out and is easily remembered. He then goes on to say these are the bits of the songs that stick with us as earworms and they just don't leave us for some reason. One of the things that I liked about the way that he talked about hooks, however, is he talks about them as being deeply personal. What may stand out to one person and be an incredibly effective hook that sticks with them forever may do nothing for someone else. Something that doesn't sit on top of the music but is instead woven directly into the fabric of it, defining like what it is. Moving away from Dr. Byron for a moment and to another bit of psychology written about hooks. Unlike what Dr. Byron was saying, there is a school of thought here where for something to be considered truly an earworm, truly a hook, it actually transcends personal taste. It's something that should be heard and noticed easily and then captured no matter who you are. What I find particularly interesting about this definition is that they talk about hooks as being the interaction between what's happening in the music and the listener's brain. But again, don't forget here that this is about transcending tastes. So there's something inherent to the music itself that when it interacts with the brain of the listener, no matter who the listener is, that is going to stick, is going to be catchy. It's not gonna go anywhere, probably ever. The parts of the brain that it's apparently interacting with are the parts that are to do with attention and memory. Well, that's interesting. You know how I'm constantly talking about attention and intention? It seems like the interplay here is extremely important if you want to write something that is truly catchy. This group of psychologists goes on to say that in addition to the way that we process things visually, where yes, we are technically taking in everything visual all at the same time, we're really only focusing on certain details. Otherwise, we'd get overwhelmed and we wouldn't really be able to do things. Similarly, we function the same way auditorily, so that yes, we are hearing the full landscape of sound that is making its way to our ears, but our brain is filtering out a lot of it or treating it like background noise. Hooks cannot possibly be filtered as background noise. They come to the surface. They are something specific that your ear cannot ignore. This is why our ears interpret the vocal line as a figure unto itself. In the same way that for a lot of songs, we hear the bass line very clearly, like the bass line stands out as a figure and not just part of the background noise. Anything that is standing out, we're gonna call figure for a moment here. Why? Because according to this definition, a hook has to have a figure. That being said, their definition does leave room that the hook doesn't have to be in the vocal line, which I think is interesting. For musical theater, definitely needs to be. For pop music, I see the argument. The other thing that I thought was particularly interesting about this group of psychologist definitions is that they are talking about the entirety of our experiences with music as kind of casting for us a set of expectations, and that a hook has to have some element of surprise in it in order to capture us enough that we are going to A, pay attention, and B, remember it. Which sounds very similar to the way that we talk about musical theater writing on the whole. Right? We do want the audience to be a step ahead or a step or two ahead, but we also want to provide them with something that feels inevitable, yet surprising. And to hear the psychologists talk about this in terms of just musical hooks in general as well, I thought was very interesting. Now, a word we haven't actually said yet that is important to toss in here is that musical hooks need to be engaging. We are always wanting to engage with our audience, but the hook should grab us so much in terms of attention that we are actively engaged. We are participant with the music and that will help us memorize it and remember that for later on, because we will integrate that into our bodies and our minds. Okay, let's talk about the key psychological factors. But before we do, if you want to try practicing writing good musical theater hooks, then I strongly suggest you check out my Flagship musical theater writing workshop course. During that course, the practical exercises are all songwriting challenges. We do 6 different challenges and 3 rewrite challenges along the way. So if practicing writing good hooks is something that you have a desire to do, but you also don't want to do with your own deadlines, or you don't want to do alone, then check out the course, because you'll be writing in collaboration and to deadlines. And that's a great way to practice, yeah? So check it out, link in the description below, and come have a chat with me. Maybe it's right for you, maybe not, but you won't find out until you send in that application. Okay, here are the key psychological factors. Here's a weird thing about the human brain. We tend to remember things that are unfinished. So if you start me on a path for something and you're leading me to a place that I think we're gonna get to, but then we never actually quite get there, I'm gonna remember that. Part of the reason that this works is because the listener then wants to complete the thing in their own mind, which kind of gives that earworm effect. It's like something plays almost on a loop because we have to complete it in our brains. I love humans, we're weird. One of my favorite songs from the musical theater canon that I feel like does this very well is The Wizard and I. We all can hear the end of that song very clearly. The Wizard and I, or whatever riffy version we're getting, but we always land on the tonic there. However, in the earlier uses of the Wizard and I hook, we avoid the tonic. The first time it's the Wizard and I. Being done on that 5th does not feel quite satisfying, right? We want to hear it again. The second time, the Wizard and I. Going to the 3rd, but now we also have a tonality change. It's like, oh my gosh, just finish it already. Catchy hooks are also often simple. For something to be memorable, simplicity is a huge key factor. If it's too complicated, then audiences probably aren't going to remember it very well. Stephen Sondheim talked about this a decent amount when he was criticized for not writing things that were quote-unquote hummable because they were complicated or too long. The simplicity of it all makes it more hummable, therefore catchier, at least in terms of psychology. Now, when I say simple in terms of length, one of the musical theater songs that came to mind with a hook that is, I guess, a little on the longer side was Everyone's a Little Bit Racist from Avenue Q. Da 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 da. Technically speaking, it's pretty long, but because it's still so simple in terms of the notes and it's fun, it feels like it's catchy. Repetition creates patterns, and our brains love patterns. Now, some hooks that I'm mad at for being catchy, it's because they're patterned and they do the same thing over and over again in a way that isn't satisfying to me, and yet I remember them. One of those examples is everybody say yeah, yeah. There's not a lot that I remembered in terms of hooks from Kinky Boots, but that one stuck with me. The words are simple, that's for sure. Everybody say yeah, yeah, but it's just over and over again. It's effective. Now here's one that's very musical theater, and that is emotional connection. Music is indeed emotional. And when the hook itself connects with us in a way that feels emotionally resonant, we are so much more likely to remember it. In a lot of ways, the hook, The Hills Are Alive, with the sound of music, is not one that we would consider standardly catchy, but there's something about the way that it makes us feel when it is played with the full accompaniment that really lands so well. It is emotionally engaging. The hills are alive with the sound of music. Okay, that's a nice sound, but I'm hearing that with the accompaniment in my head, and it's so effective with the accompaniment. Listen to it now with the accompaniment, since I just sang it without, and you'll see what I'm saying. Catchy hooks are also very immediate, very attention grabbing. I'm not saying you have to shout in the audience's faces or anything, but there should be something that feels very immediate, like I have to be with you in this moment, and that will help it stick with us. Again, it's about that integration piece. I think about the song I'm Alive from Next to Normal, that I'm alive, I am so alive. Every time that comes around, I'm like, oh, lean in. And just as is true with all of music or storytelling in general, tension and release. The hook should create some sort of tension or anticipation that we then release into some sort of resolution in a way that feels satisfying and makes us want to come back for more. A song that comes to mind for me is I Do Anything from Oliver. I do anything for you, do anything for you, mean everything to me. By the time we land on that last note, you're like, oh, good, I was hoping you would go there the whole time. You were dancing around it, I wasn't sure. In essence, we want our hooks to create a memorable and engaging experience that grabs our attention and doesn't let us go in a way that feels so integrated into us and our emotional states that we couldn't possibly forget it. Now, I'm not saying at all that these things are easy to write, but now that we know the different potential factors involved, they are a good tool for you to go back and look at the things you've already written to see if they are indeed good enough. And now we can also think about these things as we're writing our next sets of hooks. It's useful. But since setting up expectations and creating anticipation is such a large part of creating effective hooks, if you want to dive deeper into that idea, then you should definitely watch this video next. Otherwise, thank you all for being here with me today, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers!